First Contact and Ultimatum. The massive Nexarian warship emerged from hyperspace on an ordinary Wednesday morning, its obsidian hull blotting out the sun over major cities across Earth. Commander Olivia Torres, stationed at the Lunar Defense Observatory, was the first human to witness their arrival. Her heart raced as she watched the massive vessel materialize, bypassing every early warning system humanity had established. Lunar Defense Command, this is Commander Torres, she transmitted, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. Unknown vessel has appeared in orbit. Size exceeds anything in our database. No match to known Earth capabilities. Within hours, every communication device on Earth broadcasted the same message. The aliens called themselves the Nexarian Empire, rulers of 12,000 star systems. Their message was delivered by High Commander Zixtal, a towering figure with crystalline skin that seemed to pulse with internal energy. Species of Earth, the alien's voice resonated through global communications, translated perfectly into every human language. Your existence has been noted by the Nexarian Empire. Our dominion extends across vast reaches of space, our technology beyond your primitive understanding. We offer you the honor of submission to our rule. The alternative is extinction. In the United Nations emergency session that followed, world leaders gathered in unprecedented unity. The Japanese representative spoke first, her voice calm but determined. We must appear weak while gathering our strength. Request time, as if we are afraid and divided. The Brazilian president nodded slowly. Yes, make them believe we are scrambling in fear. Let their arrogance blind them. General Marcus Hayes, head of the United Earth Defense Force, presented classified data that changed everything. Our quantum sensors detected something during their transmission, he explained, projecting complex energy patterns across the chamber screens. Their entire technology base relies on advanced quantum computing. It's their greatest strength, but it could also be their vulnerability. Dr. Isabella Rodriguez, Earth's leading quantum physicist, stepped forward. Their systems are more advanced than ours, yes, but they follow universal principles. Every quantum system has a resonance frequency. Find it, and you can disrupt it. We just need time to identify theirs. The plan formed quickly. Earth would play the part of a frightened, primitive civilization, while secretly preparing its response. The UN Secretary-General delivered humanity's official reply to the Nexarians. Great High Commander, she began, her voice perfectly modulated to convey respectful fear. We are honored by your attention to our humble world. Such an important decision requires careful consideration. We humbly request the standard period of contemplation mentioned in your laws. High Commander Zixtal's crystalline features shifted in what might have been amusement. You have one standard galactic month to submit to our rule. Use it wisely. Primitives. As the transmission ended, operation centers around the world sprang into action. In the Atacama Desert, Dr. Rodriguez and her team began constructing a massive quantum analysis array disguised as a refugee camp. Deep beneath the Indian Ocean, General Hayes coordinated with global military forces to begin Operation Looking Glass. The Nexarians watched with satisfaction as humans appeared to panic. They observed the construction of crude spacecraft, the stockpiling of basic supplies, the movement of populations. All signs pointed to a civilization preparing to submit or flee. But in hidden facilities across the globe, humanity was preparing something very different. Commander Torres, working from her lunar base, coordinated with quantum labs worldwide. Each transmission from the Nexarian ships revealed more about their technological weaknesses. Their quantum network is like a web, she explained to the Emergency Council. Each ship connects to every other ship. It makes them powerful, but it also means one disruption could cascade through their entire fleet. The Council moved quickly, authorizing the largest covered operation in human history. Every nation contributed resources, every scientist shared research, every military coordinated plans. They had 30 days to prepare humanity's response to the Empire's demand. High Commander Zixtal recorded his daily observations with growing satisfaction. These humans behave exactly as expected. They build primitive evacuation ships. They stockpile basic supplies. They show every sign of preparing for submission. Their technology is centuries behind ours. Victory is assured. He didn't notice the slight smile on Commander Torres's face during their last transmission. He didn't detect the quantum resonance scanners hidden in every crewed refugee ship. And he certainly didn't realize that humanity had already chosen its response to the Empire's demand. They just needed time to prepare it properly. The hidden arsenal. Deep beneath the Himalayan mountains, Dr. Rajesh Patel hadn't slept in 3 days. The quantum physicist's eyes were fixed on streams of data flowing across his holographic displays, each pulse of information revealing more about the Nexarian Empire's technological architecture. His small frame hunched over the console, forgotten coffee growing cold beside him. "Director Morrison," he called out, his voice echoing through the cavernous underground facility. "I found something in the resonance patterns." Catherine Morrison, Director of Earth's Special Projects Division, moved swiftly to his station. Her silver hair caught the blue light of the displays as she leaned in to examine the data. "Show me." "Here." Patel pointed to a particular frequency pattern. "Every time their ships communicate, there's this distinctive quantum signature. It's like they've built their entire civilization on a single frequency band of quantum computing." Morrison's eyes widened. "A standardized system across their entire empire." "Yes," Patel nodded eagerly. "Efficient, powerful, and vulnerable. If we can disrupt this specific frequency, we could affect their entire network." Morrison finished. She immediately activated the secure global command channel. "This is Director Morrison. Get me General Hayes and Commander Torres. Priority Alpha." In the orbital shipyards above Earth, thousands of refugee ships were under construction. To the Nexarian observers, they appeared to be crewed vessels, barely capable of reaching Mars. General Hayes watched the construction from his command center in Geneva, a slight smile playing across his weathered face. "How many ships are ready?" he asked his aide. Lieutenant Reyes consulted her tablet. 3,000, sir. Each one equipped with the quantum resonance devices disguised as solar panels. The Nexarian scans show them as simple power generation systems. Hayes nodded. "And the ground-based installations? Hidden in plain sight, sir. We've modified old radio telescopes, weather stations, even decommissioned satellite dishes." The Nexarians dismissed them as primitive communication technology. The general's smile widened. "Excellent. They expect us to beg or run. Their arrogance will be their downfall." In lunar orbit, Commander Torres coordinated with the Global Defense Network. The Nexarians had allowed her to maintain the lunar observatory, seeing it as no threat. Their scans showed only basic telescopes and outdated monitoring equipment. They couldn't detect the quantum resonance analyzers hidden behind the old hardware, studying their ship's every transmission. "Commander," her communications officer called out. "Message from Dr. Patel's team. They've identified the Empire's quantum frequency." Torres opened the encrypted data packet. As she read, her heart began to race. "This is it," she whispered. "The key to their entire network." She opened a channel to Earth Command. "General Hayes, Director Morrison. We have what we need. Operation Thunderclap is go." Across Earth, preparation accelerated. In abandoned mines, beneath ocean floors, and in mountain bunkers, humanity built its response to the Empire's ultimatum. Every nation contributed its resources and expertise to the cause. Old rivalries were forgotten in the face of extinction. The Nexarians watched Earth's activities with growing amusement. Their scans showed humans frantically building simple ships, stockpiling basic supplies, and maintaining primitive defense systems. High Commander Zixtal's daily reports to the Imperial capital were filled with contempt. "These humans scramble like insects before a storm," he transmitted. "Their technology is laughably basic. Some attempt to flee in ships that barely deserve the name. Others hide in underground bunkers with weapons that couldn't scratch our hull paint. Victory is assured. His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Vexnor, was more cautious. Should we not be concerned about their unified response? Our records show they were divided before our arrival. Zixtal's crystalline skin pulsed with dismissive patterns. Fear unifies even the most primitive species. Once we take their world, these temporary alliances will shatter. What the Nexarians couldn't see was the true purpose of humanity's preparations. Each refugee ship carried carefully shielded quantum resonance devices. Every primitive defense installation concealed sophisticated sensors. The underground bunkers housed not frightened civilians but command centers coordinating the coming response. Dr. Patel's team worked around the clock, refining their understanding of the Nexarian quantum network. It's beautiful, in a way, he explained to Director Morrison. They've built an empire-wide quantum internet. Every ship, every base, every colony connected instantly across vast distances. And when we disrupt it, Morrison asked, the cascade effect should be spectacular. Patel's tired eyes gleamed, like pulling one thread and watching an entire tapestry unravel. In Geneva, General Hayes received hourly updates on humanity's preparations. The Russians had converted their old missile silos into quantum pulse generators. The Chinese had hidden resonance amplifiers in their massive solar farms. The Americans had transformed their desert satellite arrays into massive quantum disruption facilities. 20 days until their deadline, Lieutenant Reyes reported, all systems are in place. We're just waiting for the signal. Hayes studied the global deployment map. Humanity's trap was nearly complete. Tell our people to maintain their act. Let them think we're desperate and afraid. The more they underestimate us, the better this works. Commander Torres watched from the moon as more Nexarian ships arrived daily. The Empire was gathering its forces, preparing to either accept Earth's submission or enforce its extinction. Their massive vessels filled near-Earth orbit, each one connected to the same quantum network that would soon be their undoing. Their arrogance makes them predictable, she told her crew. They expect us to be primitive, so they don't look too closely. They expect us to be divided, so they don't question our unity. They expect us to submit or die, so they don't consider other possibilities. As the deadline approached, humanity's hidden arsenal was complete. Thousands of quantum disruption devices waited in orbit, disguised as refugee ships. Ground-based installations stood ready, masked as outdated technology. The trap was set. High Commander Zixtal prepared his victory speech. He had given similar addresses on 100 worlds, accepting their submission to the Empire's glory. Earth would be no different. His crystalline form glowed with anticipation as he recorded his final observations. These humans are exactly what we expected, he transmitted to Imperial Command. Primitive, fearful, and wise enough to know their place in the galaxy. Soon they will kneel before the Empire, and another world will join our eternal dominion. He didn't notice the subtle changes in Earth's power grid as quantum generators spun up to full capacity. He didn't detect the careful positioning of seemingly random refugee ships creating a perfect resonance web around his fleet, and he certainly didn't realize that humanity had spent the past month preparing not to submit, but to strike. The Empire had demanded submission. Humanity's response was almost ready. Deception in plain sight. Admiral Yuki Tanaka stood on the bridge of the refugee ship Eternal Hope, watching Earth's atmosphere shimmer below. To any Nexarian scans, her vessel appeared to be nothing more than a hastily constructed evacuation craft, filled with frightened humans fleeing their doomed world. In reality, it was the command center for humanity's most ambitious military operation. Status report, she commanded, her voice carrying the weight of 2 decades of naval experience. Lieutenant Garcia looked up from his disguised quantum console. All ships maintaining position, Admiral. The Nexarians still think we're just milling around in confusion. Their patrol vessels aren't even bothering to scan us anymore. Tanaka allowed herself a small smile. Overconfidence. The eternal weakness of empires. In the depths of the Mariana Trench, the underwater facility designated Deep Shield hummed with activity. Dr. Aisha Rahman, lead engineer of the quantum harmonics team, monitored the global network of resonance devices. Her fingers danced across holographic displays as she fine-tuned the frequency patterns. The synchronization is perfect, she reported to Director Morrison's hologram. Every refugee ship in orbit, every primitive defense installation on the ground, they're all linked and ready. When we activate the network, the quantum disruption will cascade through their entire fleet simultaneously. Morrison nodded. Any signs they suspect? Rahman shook her head. None. Their quantum scans slide right past our shielding. To them, we're just scared primitives playing with radio waves and chemical rockets. Above the planet, High Commander Zixtal's massive flagship led an ever-growing armada. The Nexarian force now numbered over 15,000 ships, gathered to either accept Earth's submission or enforce its extinction. Their quantum network hummed with confidence and contempt. Look at them, Zixtal said to his command staff, his crystalline form pulsing with amusement. Scattered across their solar system in primitive vessels, hoping to preserve some fragment of their species. Such a waste of effort. Sub-Commander Vexnor studied the tactical display. Some of their ships are arranging themselves in unusual patterns. Random movements of a panicked species. Zixtal dismissed. Their navigation systems are probably too primitive for proper formation flying. Those random movements were anything but. Admiral Tanaka and her team had calculated the exact position of every vessel in their false refugee fleet. Each ship formed part of an invisible web, ready to catch the Nexarian fleet in a quantum resonance trap of unprecedented scale. In Geneva, General Hayes received the final confirmation from Earth's quantum research teams. All ground-based installations report ready, Lieutenant Rice announced. Lunar facilities are synchronized. Deep Shield confirms optimal resonance patterns. Hayes studied the global readiness map. Humanity's hidden arsenal was complete and perfectly positioned. Send the code word to all commands, he ordered. Operation Thundercloud commences in 48 hours. The code word, Prometheus, spread through secure channels to every military and scientific installation on and above Earth. Humanity's forces acknowledged receipt and began their final preparations, all while maintaining their carefully crafted appearance of desperate confusion. Commander Torres, from her lunar observation post, watched the Nexarian fleet's movements with predatory attention. They're proceeding exactly as predicted, she reported to Earth Command. Their ships are spreading out to optimal invasion positions, which puts them right where we want them. The Nexarians interpreted Earth's apparent disarray as confirmation of their superiority. Their scans showed humans frantically moving supplies, sending out poorly organized evacuation ships, and maintaining ineffective defensive positions. It was exactly what they expected from a primitive species facing inevitable conquest. Dr. Patel, working from his Himalayan facility, put the finishing touches on the quantum disruption sequence. The beauty of it, he explained to his team, is that we're not trying to match their technological level. We're using their own quantum network against them. Their superior technology becomes a vulnerability. Throughout the solar system, humanity's forces maintained their deception with methodical precision. Refugee ships made clumsy course corrections, occasionally bumping into each other in apparent panic. Ground-based installations broadcast obvious and ineffective scanning beams. Military units made no attempt to hide their primitive defensive preparations. High Commander Zixtal prepared to address his fleet. Tomorrow, he announced, we will accept Earth's submission or begin their extinction. Our scans show they have chosen wisdom over defiance. Their pathetic attempts at evacuation prove they understand their position. In her underwater command center, Dr. Rahman ran the final diagnostics on the quantum disruption network. Every node is perfect, she reported. The resonance cascade will use their own network protocols to spread the disruption. Their quantum systems will tear themselves apart. Admiral Tanaka received the updates from her position in high orbit. The Eternal Hope, like every ship in her false refugee fleet, was precisely positioned for maximum effect. Status of the Nexarian fleet, still deploying into their standard invasion formation, Lieutenant Garcia reported. They're arranging themselves for optimal quantum network coverage, which means optimal vulnerability, Tanaka noted with grim satisfaction. As the deadline approached, humanity's forces completed their final preparations while maintaining their carefully crafted illusion of panic and disorganization. The Nexarian fleet, now fully assembled, filled near-Earth space with its overwhelming presence. Director Morrison made her final inspection of the global command network. Every installation was ready. Every ship was in position. Every quantum disruption device was primed and synchronized. Humanity's response to the Empire's ultimatum was armed and waiting. Send the final confirmation to all commands, she ordered. When the Nexarians make their move, we make ours. High Commander Zixtal recorded his final observations before the deadline. These humans have shown remarkable wisdom in accepting their inevitable submission. He transmitted to Imperial Command. Their primitive attempts at resistance and evacuation have been amusing but ultimately futile. Tomorrow, we add another world to the eternal glory of the Nexarian Empire. He didn't notice that Earth's scattered refugee ships had formed a perfect geometric pattern around his fleet. He didn't detect the quantum resonance building in supposedly primitive ground installations, and he certainly didn't realize that humanity's apparent disorganization was the product of meticulous planning. The Empire had demanded submission. Humanity's response was primed and ready. In 24 hours, the Nexarians would learn exactly what primitive humans were capable of when united against extinction. The perfect storm. Dawn broke over Earth as the Nexarian deadline arrived. High Commander Zixtal stood on his flagship's command deck, his crystalline form pulsing with anticipation. Behind him, the massive fleet decloaked in waves, 15,000 warships appearing in Earth's sky like a metal constellation. Primitive species of Earth, he broadcast worldwide, his voice dripping with imperial authority. Your time for consideration has ended. We see you have spent it in futile attempts at evacuation. Now witness the power of true civilization. The first wave of Nexarian fighters descended toward Earth's atmosphere. Their sensors showed only basic defenses, primitive missile installations, and simple radar systems. Nothing that could possibly harm their advanced ships. In the underwater command center of Deep Shield, Dr. Rahman watched them approach on her quantum tracking displays. Her hands moved steadily across the holographic controls as she monitored the resonance levels. They're broadcasting at full power, she reported to Director Morrison. Their quantum network is operating at peak efficiency. Perfect, Morrison replied. Let them think they've won. Admiral Tanaka, aboard the Eternal Hope, watched as her refugee fleet continued its carefully choreographed dance of apparent panic. Nexarian patrol ships passed within kilometers of her vessel, their scans sliding right past the disguised quantum weapons. All ships maintain position, she ordered. Wait for the signal. The Nexarian fighters began their attack runs, easily evading the few missiles Earth launched. Their superior technology made Earth's defenses look like children's toys. Pathetic, Zixtal declared, watching the display. They didn't even try to improve their weapons. Begin the landing sequence. That's when his communications officer noticed something strange. Sir, we're getting an incoming message. Text only from their United Nations. Zixtal's crystalline form pulsed with amusement. Display it. Let's cede or surrender. 3 words appeared on his screen. Look behind you. Before he could respond, Commander Torres's voice came over all frequencies. This is humanity's response to your generous offer. Simultaneously, every refugee ship in the solar system activated their hidden weapons. Thousands of quantum resonance pulses fired in perfect synchronization, creating a web of energy that the Nexarian sensors hadn't detected until it was too late. Zixtal watched in horror as his ship's quantum systems began to fail. Fighters lost power, their advanced technology useless against this primitive but devastating attack. The mighty warships, completely dependent on their quantum computers, started drifting in space. "What's happening?" he demanded. "How are they doing this?" His science officer's crystalline form had dulled to a pale gray. "Sir, they knew. They knew our weakness. Those weren't refugee ships. They were weapon platforms." In the Himalayan facility, Dr. Patel monitored the cascade effect, spreading through the Nexarian quantum network. "The disruption is propagating exactly as calculated," he reported. "Their own communication protocols are carrying our attack through their entire fleet." General Hayes picked up his secure comm unit. "All Earth forces, execute Phase 2. Show them what primitive weapons can do." Across the planet, humanity's hidden arsenal revealed itself. Missile silos opened, launching projectiles that needed no quantum guidance to find their targets. Railgun installations emerged from their camouflage, firing magnetically accelerated rounds at the crippled Nexarian ships. Fighter squadrons rose from hidden bases, their pilots relying on skills and training rather than advanced computers. "Impossible," Zixtol whispered as he watched his mighty fleet being torn apart by weapons he had dismissed as primitive. "Their technology, they couldn't possibly." "We didn't need to match your technology." Admiral Tanaka's voice came over the command channel. "We just needed to understand it. Your quantum network was your greatest strength and your greatest weakness." From her lunar observation post, Commander Torres coordinated the attack with cold precision. The quantum disruption had spread through the Nexarian fleet exactly as planned, leaving their ships helpless against humanity's counterattack. Dr. Raman's voice came over the command network from Deep Shield. "The cascade effect has reached critical mass. Their entire quantum network is collapsing. Not just here. The disruption is spreading through their faster-than-light communications. Every Nexarian ship and base connected to their network is being affected." In orbit, the mighty Nexarian fleet was in chaos. Ships collided as their quantum navigation systems failed. Weapons wouldn't fire. Communications were reduced to primitive radio signals. The Empire's superior technology had become dead weight. "Status report," General Hayes demanded from his Geneva command center. Lieutenant Rice's voice was triumphant. 80% of enemy ships disabled. The rest are trying to retreat, but their faster-than-light drives won't engage. Ground-based weapons are picking them off at will. High Commander Zixtol stared at his dead displays in disbelief. His mighty fleet, the pride of the Nexarian Empire, was being systematically destroyed by a species he had dismissed as primitive. "How?" he demanded. "How did you do this?" Admiral Tanaka's voice was cold. "You gave us a month to submit. We used it to prepare our response. You watched us build refugee ships. We were really positioning quantum disruption devices. You saw primitive defenses. We were hiding our real weapons. You thought we were running away. We were surrounding you." From her position on the moon, Commander Torres watched the last Nexarian ships fall to Earth's coordinated attack. "All commands, this is Lunar Observatory. Enemy fleet has been neutralized. I repeat, enemy fleet neutralized." In the Himalayan facility, Dr. Patel monitored the quantum disruption spreading through the Nexarian Empire's faster-than-light network. "The cascade effect has gone empire-wide," he reported. "Their entire civilization is experiencing quantum system failures. The Empire's technology is collapsing." Director Morrison stood in Deep Shield's command center, watching the final stages of humanity's victory unfold. "Send word to all commands," she ordered. "Operation Thunderclap is complete. Earth is secure." As humanity's forces secured their victory, High Commander Zixtol stood on his powerless flagship, watching his mighty fleet reduced to space debris by the very primitives he had come to conquer. His crystalline form had dulled to almost black. "You could have simply asked to open diplomatic relations," Admiral Tanaka transmitted to his ship. "Instead, you demanded submission and threatened extinction. Remember this day. Remember what happened when you underestimated humanity." The Empire had demanded submission. Humanity had responded with unyielding fire, and in doing so, they had not just saved Earth, they had broken the power of an empire that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia. Dawn of a new era. 1 month after Operation Thunderclap, Earth's unified command gathered in the restored United Nations chamber in Geneva. The room hummed with energy as military leaders, scientists, and political representatives from every nation shared reports on the aftermath of humanity's victory. Admiral Tanaka stood at the podium, her uniform crisp despite the exhaustion evident in her stance. "The last pockets of Nexarian resistance in our solar system have been eliminated," she reported. "Their surviving ships have been stripped of quantum technology and secured. More importantly, we're receiving transmissions from across their former empire." The holographic display behind her showed a map of known space, with former Nexarian territories highlighted in different colors. The quantum cascade effect worked better than we anticipated. Their entire command and control structure has collapsed. Worlds they've enslaved for centuries are declaring independence. Dr. Patel, who had barely slept since the battle, stepped forward to explain. "The Nexarians built their empire on technological dominance. When we disrupted their quantum network, we didn't just defeat their fleet, we broke the foundation of their power. Their subject worlds are using our quantum disruption protocols to prevent any attempt at reasserting control." Director Morrison nodded. "And the diplomatic situation?" Commander Torres, recently promoted to admiral for her role in the victory, activated her own holographic display. "We're receiving delegations from 30 former Nexarian subject worlds. They're not just seeking diplomatic relations, they're asking for our help." The chamber buzzed with conversation. Humanity, which a month ago had faced extinction, was now being courted by civilizations from across the galaxy. The irony wasn't lost on anyone present. In the secure holding facility beneath Mount Fuji, High Commander Zixtal sat in his cell, his once brilliant crystalline form now permanently dulled to a dark gray. Dr. Raman studied him through the quantum-shielded observation window. "You still don't understand, do you?" she asked. "Your empire fell not because we were stronger, but because you were arrogant. You assumed technological superiority meant absolute superiority." Zixtal's response was barely a whisper. How could primitives who barely reached their own moon defeat an empire of 1,000 worlds? "Because we're not primitives," Raman replied. "We're survivors. Every challenge in our history has made us stronger. When you demanded our submission, you united us like never before. Humanity at its best isn't about technology. It's about innovation, adaptation, and determination." General Hayes had convened a special session with the world's military leaders. The strategic situation had changed dramatically. Earth was no longer just a single planet facing an overwhelming threat. It was becoming a major power in galactic politics. "The former Nexarian subject worlds are offering us their advanced technology in exchange for our quantum disruption protocols," he explained. "But more importantly, they're offering alliance. They've seen what humanity can do, and they want us on their side." Lieutenant Reyes, promoted to captain after the battle, presented the latest intelligence. "We're already receiving reports of other empires and confederations taking notice. Earth isn't seen as a primitive backwater anymore. We're the power that brought down the Nexarians." In orbit, the Eternal Hope had been converted into Earth's first true interstellar diplomatic vessel. Admiral Tanaka stood on its bridge, watching shuttles arrive from across the galaxy. Representatives from dozens of species came to discuss treaties, trade agreements, and mutual defense pacts with the humans who had proven themselves far more formidable than anyone had imagined. "It's strange," she commented to Lieutenant Garcia, now her executive officer. "A month ago, we were facing extinction. Now we're helping shape the future of galactic civilization." "They underestimated us," Garcia replied. "Everyone did. They saw our technology and assumed we were primitive. They never considered that true strength comes from more than just advanced machines." In the Himalayan facility, Dr. Patel and his team were already working on new projects. The quantum knowledge gained from studying the Nexarian systems had opened up incredible possibilities. But they proceeded with caution, remembering the lesson they had taught the Empire. Overconfidence leads to vulnerability. "We're not going to repeat their mistakes," Paddle told his international team. "Every advance we make needs to be balanced with wisdom. We've seen what happens when a civilization relies too heavily on any single technology." Director Morrison, addressing the UN Security Council, summarized humanity's new position in the galaxy. "We've been noticed. Earth is no longer an isolated world. The question now is, what do we do with this opportunity?" The answer came from 100 voices, representing every nation on Earth. The unity forged in defiance of the Empire had created something new, a humanity ready to take its place among the stars, not as conquerors or subjects, but as equals. Commander Torres, observing from her lunar base, watched ships from a dozen alien worlds orbit Earth peacefully. "We've changed everything," she transmitted to Earth Command. "Not just for us, but for every civilization that lived under the Empire's shadow." In Geneva, the United Earth Council convened its first session. Representatives from every nation gathered to plan humanity's future. The threats they had faced and overcome had taught them valuable lessons about unity, innovation, and the true meaning of strength. Admiral Tanaka's final report to the Council summed up the transformation. "The Empire demanded our submission, expecting us to kneel or die. Instead, we showed them, and ourselves, what humanity is truly capable of. We didn't just survive their ultimatum. We transformed it into an opportunity to forge a better future." As Earth's first diplomatic missions prepared to depart for the stars, humanity stood united and strong. They had faced extinction and emerged victorious. They had been dismissed as primitives and proved themselves innovators. They had been threatened with destruction and instead destroyed an empire. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would humanity. In his cell, Zixtal watched through a window as another alien delegation arrived to meet with Earth's leaders. "We thought we were offering them submission or extinction," he murmured. "Instead, they offered the galaxy liberation. We thought we were superior beings confronting primitives. Instead, we were empire builders confronting something we'd never understood. Unity in the face of extinction, innovation in the face of superiority, and determination in the face of overwhelming odds. The Empire had demanded submission. Humanity had responded with unyielding fire. And in doing so, they had not just saved their world, they had changed the galaxy forever."